And hey there, it's me, Mudlink, and welcome back to some more The Greatest Attorney Adventures. So last time, we finished off the investigation, we found out what the Gyarados were hiding, and, well, we weren't sure if it really connected back to the crime. And of course, we got a little lesson in belief from the great Sherlock Holmes, and now we're actually going to be taking on the case against... And we have to go up against Barack Von Zieks again. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, I saved again. Whoops. Well, I never expected this. Who would have thought we'd be back here again so soon? We are on a study tour of Great Britain with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. Good morning! Okay, is it just me or it looks... You can see close in his eyes. They're fucking bloodshot. I've never noticed that until now. I guess because I played like on 3DS before, so I couldn't notice it. But yeah, his eyes are fucking bloodshot red. Mr. Natsume, good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. Oh, I just forgot about this line. Whoopsie. That's just part of the scene. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried just pulling out to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. I wish I had 9 lives. My future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, welcome student Mr. Naruto Esquire. Yes? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Miss Suzuto? I'm sorry, Miss Naruto, but I have no idea. So that all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me. It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zieks? Is that right, Miss Suzuto? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zieks is on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? Oh, go blimey. Oh no, never mind, wrong thing. Trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zieks' return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Oh, what a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they are all speculating various answers. Mundane? Mundane is the most significant saga of the century to some of us. Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention. There's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Welcome, student Mr. Naruto Esquire. It's you! Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it was you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper. Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. Can only be another example, Mr. Naruto, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive. Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student new to London with little way in the way of experience or skills or luck. But I promise you this: I will fight your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruto, Esquire. You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant, Miss Migatoba Esquires. I am in your debt, forever. I shall never forget this great kindness. For as long as I live, Mr. Natsume. Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. Alright then, Mr. Natsume, it's time. Let's go. Yeah. Yes! This is it. My second appearance in a British court, and my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma, because this time I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last, just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. Yeah. Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are students who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Susato-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Very true, and a most fascinating, if dark, trial it was too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted, and his unfortunate, violent end. Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? You never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone. Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Oh well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow. I'm afraid to say, I think it's quite possible that mustached foreigner did the deed. Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway. Sorry, didn't quite catch that. Very well, let us proceed. Let us proceed. Opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zeeks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Soseki Natsume. While our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, regrettably, that kindness has not been returned. In fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime, I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are. Just look at that sallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese. Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, didn't quite catch that. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hollow chalice here in this great chamber. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff Flint, lead the inspector in, please. Oh, blimey. Your name and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector? The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green. Beg your pardon, Inspector? Thought to be? Thought to be? Yes. Haven't been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife. No, this is no knife. This is a knife. Yes, haven't been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife. The victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since. What? So they don't even know who she is for sure? Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger? Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray elaborate on the details, Inspector. Inspector. Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at the street map. Can't talk. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago, at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, but she is currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. There's the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please. I'm losing the I fucking hate these goddamn British voices. What is the weapon that was used? Sir, go blimey. Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Ouch, that big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. A heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even the scragged-looking Soseki-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife, I would say, rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence. Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? But from what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. I would imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord. I'm losing the fucking... Oh, blimey. There we go. I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from the visit in second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim. If theft and grievance had been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way. I love that animation. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery, but your words have soured its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student. Oh, yes, sir. I still love doing the Barack Von Zieg's voice. Ah. So not to make, as I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the God blimey. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind, and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and when we found the bloke to arrest him. I lost him. fucking voice. God fucking damn it. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph. Oh, no, God blimey. Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here at the scene of a crime, taken immediately after the incident. Give me my fish and chips. Yes, oh yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I will take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector. You Nepalese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat, denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, forgive me, my Lord Van Zeeks, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Masusato? Do go on. Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now you mention it. When we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, just as I went to overtake her. She suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran, as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. A green overcoat. It's a simple fucking voice. Yeah, for green overcoat. Well, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing. A photographic print in full color. What will the world come up with next? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean that he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time, just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there was nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. A fact that the accused concedes. Seems this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please. Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. Light fog, you say? Well, light for London. You can see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther though. That's light, is it? Oh, blimey. Around these parts, yes. Not something I'd expect a Japanese fellow like yourself to know, of course. Read that London is famous for its fog. But in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. How quaint! Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize, as I expect you can appreciate. I see. At this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling. Ugh, Susan, I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused. How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witnesses to this crime have told us. Yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right. One of them was a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard. That is correct, ma'am. And we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will of course call them to the stand, should it be necessary. But wait a minute, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter? It would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen... I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights. Ah. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Quite, here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness. Which means we really need to hear those witness statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to... It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector. Inspector. From behind, you say? That's right. As you can see from this print. Ugh, fucking hate this voice. Oh my god, I hate this voice. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the blade is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition. Comatose, no less. I'm afraid so, my lord. Yes, she's been treated at Bart's. I was hopeful that she'd come around before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. Ugh. Mr. Natsume's belongings, you'll find it's all there in the photograph of the crime scene. Yes, the 3 books on the floor. Yes, the 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course. The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand, which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. He's very clever. He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape he might have had before he even knew it was there. You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust a knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes. The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The bloke's room is stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. Closest second-hand bookshop to the accuser's lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books. Little place on the corner of Briar Road and Meerschaum Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end. Did I miss something? Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Something like this. Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Miss Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Yes, I agree. The most important point that the inspector had just made being... Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor? What? Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe? Oh, well, you know. I mean, yes, it could be a very important clue. Very well. Not that I can see it being any great significance, but please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord, whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? So the shop is called Bourbon Books, is it? That's right. That's the closest second-hand bookshop to the accused's lodgings. To get from there back to his room. He would have gone right past the very spot where the incident took place. If I could just confirm one point. Can we be sure that the defendant really did visit Bourbon Books on the day in question? Well, we haven't actually confirmed it, no. You haven't confirmed it. Why the devil not, Inspector? Well, the thing is, shopkeeper's gone on a trip, you see. Left the morning after the incident to collect more stock, I'm told. So we haven't been able to ask the bloke if the accused visited his shop on the day in question or not. Well, in that case, what did the defendant himself have to say about it? No recollection. What? According to the statements he made at the time, the accused has no recollection of where he'd been. Of course he doesn't. The bloke clearly has his head in the clouds whenever he's walking about town. Seems he just wanders into whatever bookshop he just happens to be passing and rarely notices the name. I should say the man ought to learn to look where he's going at the very least. At the very least, sorry. Using the fucking voices. It's just as I thought then. Something the matter? Inspector, you may continue with your testimony. You asked for the help of the famous detective Sherlock Holmes to locate the defendant, I believe. Stuff and nonsense. Sorry? That Jackanoff is a busybody. Just comes and sticks his oar in whenever we ask him or not. Sorry, I'm just checking something. But according to what I have here, Mr. Holmes was shown to the scene by Scotland Yard detectives. Well, that was nothing to do with me. The lads at the scene must have done it without my permission. I tell them time and again, whenever something happens, send word to headquarters. Then follow your bloomin' instructions. I see. If that meddler gets his hand on any details, we'll all be reading it in Rance magazine next month. You can bet your last farthing I'll be in there too, stripped of all my hard work on the case. Yes, Mr. Holmes. No, Mr. Holmes. Aren't you clever, Mr. Holmes? That's all the things I'll be getting. Inspector, if the man is proving detrimental to the yard's activities, perhaps I should step in and deal with him. Ha! It appears Inspector Gregson is lost for words. Yes, the Reaper's words carry a lot of weight, obviously. Anyway, the point is that little Japanese bloke's already admitted it. He's admitted that those books all over the pavement at the scene were the ones he bought that day. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? If you're unable to sway the jury during this cross-examination, I'm afraid that Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed. Yes, they're sure to find him guilty. So one way or another, I have to expose an undeniable inconsistency in the inspector's testimony, which you already have. As you can see here, he went to your books. Haha. If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. There's a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books. And you found that in the accused's room, did you? Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. The receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume? Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand shop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books. Eh? What? Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand shop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that, well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it. But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it. Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here if that might be of help. Yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. Have a look at this, please. As the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually in another bookshop, your books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all. Would that be true? Well, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely. Absolutely could be right. Inspector Gregson, where is this your book's establishment? Well, obviously, we looked into that. Turns out that your books is just here on the next corner of Meerschaum Street going east. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now... Oh. Dumbass. My Lord Nipponey's friend is obviously in training to be a clown, the way he regales with such witticisms. To your future career in the circus. Yes, that is a reference to what you're thinking. You're not a clown. You're the entire circus. You put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you. I didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here you go. Here we go. The accused was coming home from your books instead of bourbon books. No doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. Yes, thank you, Inspector. Yes, thank you, Inspector. Ugh, losing the fucking voices! I hate these British voices suck. Allow me to reiterate from I learned if somewhat slow Nipponey's friend. Wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. Oh my god! As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try. Where I say, I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that? Miss Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. What do you mean? The prosecution's assertion is correct. The members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. She's absolutely right. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. They claim Soseki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but... The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked. Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way round. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings, and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime. But, yes, I've got it. Obviously, you must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. I don't believe this. Hmm. I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Hang on, you should get some water. Alright, there you go, I'm back. And suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say you insightful jurors? What say you insightful jurors? But, if that is the case... What? Old man's angry. But even if that is the case, the defense still... I agree with Lord Van Zeeks, wholeheartedly and in every way. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean... We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court. Would appear the jury's leaning is unanimous. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruhodo. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of the scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow. Those are the eyes of Quarry, not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial? Rights of the defense were into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses. Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with a summation examination. The members of the jury ready for Mr. Foreman? Of course, we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his onkus. What the fuck is that word? Never seen that word before. This is my first time playing, well, mostly playing, like...
Onkus.
It's just Unkus, yeah. It's Australian slang. How the fuck is he saying it if it's Australian slang? I'm not too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his Onkus refusal to throw in his alley. Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. Judicial findings. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted himself, didn't he? You said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes. Why, it can only have been the victim. Why, it could only have been the victim. The man wouldn't have gone around the house. The house is on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful. I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I got work to be doing. Your books, yes. That's not. I shot that. But bourbon books? No, not worth a visit. Not worth a visit. I already forgot about the point. Yeah, not worth a visit. Wait. With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already. Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now. Ugh, why did he have to run away like that? How are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense? Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue... Yes, I know. I have to return the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least. Exactly. We have no choice but the forge forward. You have the floor, Council. Begin your summation examination. Yes, my lord. Yeah, time for this once again. Just need to keep this trial going somehow. Whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke, you can do it. Jury examination. Excuse me, but aren't you... Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago. Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face. Or the side of it, anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. Oh, wait. He is Australian. Okay, I just completely... couldn't remember that. It's no knife. This is a knife. No, I'm still keeping the American. I'm still keeping the Southern accent, just cause. I completely forgot he was Australia. He at least came back. He at least was in Australia for a good while. It was all going swimmingly until you started fossicking around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute. Sorry. Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals. Oh well, you know, water under the bridge. Now there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me nonstop. If I could turn back the clock. Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. I'm free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't. Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. You're right. You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him. Well, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly, that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly, that funny little Nepalese man with the disturbing mustache is the culprit. Let's not forget, madam, that the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman. Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. This man is obviously a liver-faced coward. Honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes. But if that's the lies you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Well, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds? Could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime. Ugh. No one else could have done it? The accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple. The argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit. Oh my, you are too kind, my lord. That went well for her. But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume would have taken from your books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map, you mean. What was it? Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there? Well, yes, that's true as well. And as I understand, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible. I already forgot what voice I gave him before. Whatever, who cares? Well, yes. Why is all this true? So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. Ah, I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I've given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone the Calabash Road way, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honestly, I would. So it's basically the pressing it's giving you the hints who you need to pit between people. You can't do that right now. A reason why Soseki-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one. I know, I played this to prepare for the video, So I guess I just fucking blocked up my mind certain things. I don't know. Well, it's been a long while since I recorded that. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, for she how dreadful. Whatever's the matter, young man? You're the wife of Mr. Gerev, aren't you? The landlord who went to Mr. Natsume's room? My master's wife, where did you get your idea, sir? I'm the maid, you understand? She's keeping up that charade? Ugh, this is going to be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean. Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I have no choice. I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your master's house, doesn't he? Yes, that's right. Although he's only been in a little over a week now. And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit a crime such as this? Oh my goodness me, yes. He's just the sort. What? Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous mustache. The man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something. Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume, how could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm. Nothing more. Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She said enough damning things already. Telling you, hey, avoid this one. Man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's. Ah. Actually, you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like me can afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't need to, neither do the wife and kids. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. We're after cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn till dusk, it is. So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just around the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop it was. What? Another coincidence. That's right, Meerschaum Street it was. Meerschaum Street? On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets. You're number 5. I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. What's the point in that? Can we just get this business over with now? Please, sir, it's important. Fine, I'll do it then. I'm not gonna press it because it's basically just saying the same thing. Sorry. Fold it, you say? Fold what? No. What I said was hold it. What I want to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. The same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question? Well, I was picking up books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Just before 5, you say, exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? Oh yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. Not about to forget that day in a hurry, not after the dreadful time I had. What do you mean? Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It was always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up. Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road. That's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books. Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal testimony. It may very well be extremely significant. Sorry. Extremely sick? No, I'm quite alright now. Sends a shiver down my spine to hear that members of the jury are so convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree, it's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo, cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again carefully. If any of their assertions are at odds, I'll pit them mercilessly against each other. Yes, don't hold back. Pit them all against each other. So first thing to do, pit number 3 and 5. Actually, well, because they're here, we'll do pit. No shit. Wrong one. Yeah, press Y. Number 5, number 2, and number 6. Yigiati. The Susamas clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. A flaw? What are you talking about, counsel? Well, juror number 2, juror number 6. My, whatever do you mean, sir? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There's at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of second-hand titles. He then returned home on foot. The man says he has no recollection of his return journey. That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes. Yes, we are aware. We are aware of all this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously. Can we really be sure of that, madam? My, whatever do you mean? I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. The same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim, who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. Oh my! My goodness, you mean... That's right. I'm referring, of course, to the hard of hearing juror number 6. Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was a jolly old gentleman on the end of the bench here with me today? That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. Well, look at that. My goodness me! I'm sorry, you need a pee? And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. Calabash Road. Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. If that's true, then clearly... The crime scene on Briar Road where the victim was stabbed was not on his way home. Oh my! You idiot, old man. If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago. And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat? What'd you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days? Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it? My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but... You'd like to change your leading, I presume? I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you. Now what to? What? Is it a crime to change your mind? Is it? Well? Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful. Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least, strengthen our position somewhat. Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves whether the current leanings are really right or not. Now, if only we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume. We might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Van Zieks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent. But whatever means we have at our disposal. Thank you, counsel. On with the summation examination, please. Yes, my lord. Now we have to pit this one against number 5. Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another. At odds? Counsel, explain yourself. Please don't point. It wasn't me, I swear. What? I just want to get this done and dusted. Well, juror number 3? Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Just checking something quick. There you go. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of second-hand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meerschaum Street, making it impassable. Which means that the defendant's route home could not have been taken along Meerschaum Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course. But yeah, what do you think, sir? Well, yes, you can't argue with that, really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose I must be right, eh? Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But we see now that he had no choice. Yes. My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may. Yes. I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so that we can get to the bottom of what really happened. What about you, sir? Oh, me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in. That's what I say. Well, that submission examination is concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The yeas, 2. The noes, 4. So the noes have it. Not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus which means we no longer have a consensus about among the members of the jury. The trial will continue. Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. But Lord Van Zieks... Lord Van Zieks? It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. And we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Easterner... by an Eastern entertainer. Whatever do you mean? I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Indeed. Stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir. I tried. It took me the whole day, and they paid me a measly tuppence for it. Now, my Lord Nipponese friend, tell me. Do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue now. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent... Oh my god, I can't fucking talk. Did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway. We just turn any gentlefolk back when they come. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. Ah. Is that true, is it? The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodging, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road. Crush in a single sentence. And, old man. Cold man, you can talk, you can talk. You say that at around 5 o'clock on the day in question, you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time? Oh, I can't say as I remember. You don't remember? How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw? I would lay 1,000 to 1. Against you being able to prove it. Ah! Order! Order! Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. My lord. If you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer during the summation examination? I want to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury so readily swayed. Ugh. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What are you talking about? My lord? The prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses. Its next witnesses? Miss Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident. Yes, I remember. One of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. I'm afraid it's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. All right. No matter who Van Zeeks brings to the stand as witnesses, and no matter what they say, I believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent, and I'll keep believing to the very end until this battle is over. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Constable Rowley Beat. Sir, nothing to report on the street, sir. Oh. And I'm Mrs. Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say that I'm this young town hero's wife. What's the story here? Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day. No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beats is the most demanding work in the world. Oh, really? I'm sure I've heard that before, actually. Indeed, apart from rare off days, our gallant officers travel some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meters are reading true, and they're responsible for keeping the streets clean, lighting and extinguishing our street lights. There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet, I'd have collapsed long ago. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. And even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bob, he's a man of honor. And a man of slumber. Sorry. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat? That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rowley? Constable Rowley Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir. What a great witness he's gonna be. Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon in question of the incident. Yes, sir. What is this? It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at a nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him as clear as day. Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say. Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed. It's death knell, in fact. Because that alternative was never viable in the first place. What an unfortunate chancing. And on your wedding anniversary, too. Oh, I know. But I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that. Gosh, the life of a London Bobby sounds very hard indeed. Indeed, however. This cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon. What do you mean by that? My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that it was without doubt the accused, Mr. Soseki-san. Soseki Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less. So you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that the man's so tired his wife has to do all the talking. Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. And we're pretty much gonna end it off here. It's over an hour long, this episode, and yeah, we have to press every statement anyway. That's just how we have to do this normally. But anyway, this case, it still seems very not doable right now. But you know, we're gonna figure out eventually what's gonna happen with this, and you're kind of not gonna believe what the fuck happens. Anyway, I'll be seeing you guys next time. Take care.